All right, I believe we're live. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in to the Doc Bookshop. I am Donna Craddock. I am one of the co-owners of the Doc Bookshop. And I know y'all hear Michael Jackson in the background. I'm going to ask Ashley to turn it down for me, please. Um, so we're excited today because we have a wonderful author in the house. And his name is Scott Wells. And we're just so excited to hear his story. It's quite intriguing. Okay,
It's a little twisted.
it's a little twisted. And so, let's just give people a moment to gather in. But first and foremost, I want to check and make sure my stuff is working
You got it.
because I'm telling you, normally uh, everything is good, but there's been times where I did a whole live and I had no sound. So I take time to make sure our stuff is working. Where's my video? Hold on. And usually, well, I'm getting confused. There it is. Okay.
This is a
I
great store.
sure.
I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, I am so thrilled and for the opportunity. I mean,
Oh, yeah, we're good.
it's working.
We're good. Okay. I just want to make sure, you all, because I don't want anyone to miss this conversation. So thank you. Okay, so Scott, okay, just tell us about you. Who is Scott Wells?
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for this opportunity. Uh, I, this experience has been a crazy journey, and I've learned so much. It started when I was 16. So for me, I grew up in Idaho, in a very small farming, uh, conservative religious community. And
Okay.
I always, I didn't. As soon as I graduated high school, I got out. I always said that the best way to look at that town is through the rearview mirror of your car.
Okay.
So after I left, it was the day after, the morning after I graduated high school, I left, and
Really?
yeah,
Like right after high school, you was out of there,
the next morning, I had my bags packed that night. But I've lived in quite a few places. I mentioned earlier, I'm one of those people that uh, depends on how you look at it. It could be crazy or weird, or just to me, it's interesting things that took me that happened to me without even looking for it or asking for it. But I've learned to lean into them, and once I get past the the trauma, in some cases, it turns into an amazing story, and I want to be able to use that story to help others not get into the same situation. But
Okay.
I uh, this is my first book. I When I was 8, I set a goal that I wanted to write something that was published.
Okay.
It only took over 40 years to do it, but I did it.
You did it, and this is not your first. Actually, is this your first, or you said you got a
It
second one?
it is. It's my first that's been released.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay.
The second book
The
actually
next
is
one is coming out. Okay.
May 2026. That is another crazy, twisted story that really I tell people, and they're like, "You've got to be making this up." I'm like, "No." And you know what? The thing I've learned is in a lot of cases, the truth is in a lot of cases, the truth is more crazy and twisted than what you can think of.
Yes.
Because it really happens, and it could happen to other people, and but
The truth can be scary.
absolutely, and people
Okay.
are, especially for this content,
Mm-hmm.
they're as humans, we are scared of what we don't understand. And
Definitely the unknown.
yes, exactly. And when I wrote this book, I wasn't sure how it would be received. It was, the content sparks a lot of emotion, and I got some really credible death threats after I wrote it.
Really?
Yeah. Uh, And I spent,
What the book title? We're gonna pause. Is Marked by the Ouija. Am I saying that right?
yeah,
Ouija.
Luigi. Yeah.
Ouija. Uh-huh.
I mean,
So Marked by the Ouija, by Scott Wells. This is y'all. This is definitely an intriguing book, and I'm looking forward to our conversation because I want to know um, your inspiration behind this book, and the fact that you received death threats about this book is pretty scary. But
it was. I mean, I spent about 2 weeks looking over my shoulder, making sure it wasn't being followed. And, I just,
but why would you? We're gonna get into it, but I'm just curious. So why would you receive threats about a book? Probably because this book is based on a true story. It's a fiction book based on a true story.
yes.
Okay.
And what they said was I was spreading demonic information and I needed to be wiped from the earth. And if they ever found me, then that's exactly what they were going to do. So
Ooh.
once there were a few like right in within about a week and a half, they were just days apart. So I immediately went and I had any indication of like on my website and all social media, I had taken off where I lived,
Oh my goodness,
just to be.
that's pretty scary.
It was nuts, but I got to the point where, this happened when I was promoting the book, and at the time, once the book came out, and I was promoting on social media and on different shows and things, then I had, and I didn't expect this. I had a lot of people that uh, started sharing their experiences with me, their personal experiences. And I just found that extremely courageous because in 99% of the people I talked to, they told me that they can't talk openly about it. Uh, some people had been ostracized by their family. Some people, all of them were judged. But they knew, by me talking about it and by me sharing this story, that I was a safe space where they could talk about it. And I believe that hauntings continue if you don't head them off, if you don't handle them direct on. So the more we avoid talking about uh, this subject, the longer it's going to haunt these people. And I thought if they can be courageous and share their story with me, and I mentioned earlier, one of the most proud things that has come from this experience is, and I didn't expect it, was uh, being a safe space where people who have had these experiences, these traumatic, horrific experiences, being able to talk about them and share them with me without the feeling of being judged or ridiculed or humiliated or.
Right.
So if there's anyone out there that has had any of these experiences, you can find me on social media through my website, uh, and you want to talk about it. I please reach out because I believe the more we talk about it, the less power that it has. And if and this is my goal, from this story, and we'll talk about the inspiration and everything. But I've also written a short film, and we have the GoFundMe campaign goes live tomorrow, and it's called Marked, and that is another way that I want to uh, get people talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
because the more we talk about it, the less
Scary.
the less scary it is.
Mm-hmm.
But we still have to educate because it's not a toy, and that's the other thing. I want to be able to educate people that like I haven't used it since my experience, and I won't, and I don't advocate people using it. But I've talked to a lot of people that have never had experiences that want one, and we're adults. They're going to make their decision whatever they want. If they're dead set on doing it, they're going to do it. But if I can help them do it in a more safe way, to where they don't have experience like I had, then that is good. So
Okay.
there's a lot of different aspects to it.
Well, we at the Doc Bookshop, I think one of our core values is information, and really just just delving into topics and just sharing. And we love stories. So the fact that we're delving into this one is different for us.
Yeah, I'll bet it is.
I'm gonna be honest. This is our first story dealing with Ouija. Okay,
The other
but
side, yeah, it's
like he said, well, we do love a good story, but two, it's information. We want to learn from your experience,
yes.
and so let's talk about that. So what's the inspiration? What happened? What made you write this book?
So I was 16, and like most teenagers growing up in boring, small conservative towns, you have to create your own fun. You have to
Right.
find your own excitement. And, teenagers, they do things
Teenagers do.
that teenagers do. That's a good way to put it. They don't follow the
Right.
parents, and they think they
Teenagers
know
do
everything.
what teenagers
Right.
do.
And I was clearly one of those people. When I was 16, I was working at Pizza Hut, and I thought that my parents were constricting me from living the amazing life that I was destined to live
Right.
at 16. And so I told them that I
Like
was,
most 16-year-olds. Yeah.
yeah,
You're
I was typical, And so I told my parents that I was moving out. And my dad said, "Don't let the door hit you. The good Lord split you." And so I ended up moving in with my boss, who was about 5 or 6 years older, and he lived about a couple of blocks away from my parents. And that's where this experience happened. But at the time where I was in my life, I'd be like, wow, I'm 16, I'm living on my own. I have my boss was hardly there, and he was a little rebellious anyway. So I'm like, I can do whatever I want. I don't have, that,
those parents watching over me,
tell
taking
me
care
what
of
to do. Right. Exactly.
me in my business.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. So I found a Ouija board at even at a local variety store in a small town. I mean, literally, when I say small town, the closest town that had a
Now, did you go looking for a Ouija board?
no, no. I was
Okay.
walking through this little variety store, little local variety store that it was in the game section. And I grew up playing games, and I'd heard the stories, and other people tell me the stories, they've been passed around, but I didn't believe it. I'm like, okay,
You're a teenager.
I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. So I got it, and I had it in my room, and I was working. This was a Sunday afternoon, or a Sunday. I was working, and I had two friends that were waiting for me at home to get off work, and then we're going to go do something. But I ended up working late. I took another shift, and so I ended up, staying till after midnight, or till midnight. But while they were waiting for me, they got bored and started snooping around and found the board in my room, and they didn't believe it either. They didn't understand it. They'd heard the stories, but they're like, "Oh, let's play it. It'll be fun."
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there, but I got a call at work, and they were frantic. Doesn't even come close to explaining or to describing what I heard in their voice. They told me in great detail about what happened to them in their experience, and it scared them so much that they burned the board.
Okay. So you didn't get a chance to play. I don't know if you played with it or what, but you didn't get a chance to experience the board. But they burned it.
So that yes, they burned it, and
Well, they must have. Yeah, they must have really scared them.
it to this day they will not talk to me. I haven't reached out to them in about 20
They're
years.
still talking to you?
I got home from work, so when they told me, I was annoyed, I was angry that they actually went and started snooping in my room, but I think I was more annoyed that they got to play it before I did. I mean, that I think made me more angry. So I got home from work, and they and I always went in through the back door, and right by the back door there's a old beat up metal garbage can, and the house was white, and it was up against the house, and they had told me that they had burned it with a bunch of lighter fluid in this garbage can. So when I got home, the light was on next to the house, and as I entered the backyard, I could smell the lighter fluid. It was just, I mean, that smell of lighter fluid, and it just lingers. And so I could smell it. And then I got to the garbage can, and I looked down and I saw the ash. There were even some red embers, and the board wasn't I had always thought that, a real Ouija board was wooden with thousands of years of souls trapped inside, but this was cardboard and plastic. And Parker Brothers, and I'm like, this is not real.
Right.
But I saw the ash, I smelled the lighter fluid. And matter of fact, up because the garbage can was up next to the house, there were smoke marks that went all the way.
There we go. We're back. Okay, we're back,
Yeah.
everyone. I will make sure you can see us. Okay, thank you, Ed.
And so I walked out the next morning to go to school. Even though I moved out, I still, wanted to finish school. So I went to school, and as soon as I opened the door, I noticed that there was no hint or trace of lighter fluid. Uh, I looked in the garbage can. There was no ash. There was no smoke marks on the house. Uh, there was nothing. And I thought that was odd because I didn't get home until midnight, till after midnight. This was about 7 o'clock when I got it to go. And that my bedroom was literally on the other side of that wall. So they would have had to vacuum out all that ash. I mean, there was no sign of a fire at all. But the craziest thing,
So you just want to dump the trash or?
no, there wasn't anything in it. It was empty. But the craziest thing, and I've told the story thousands of times. It still brings me back to this experience. Sitting on top of that garbage can was a brand new board, still in its box. There was no lighter fluid, no ash, no smoke marks, and it was a brand new board.
Oh, no, that's interesting.
I I thought my initial thought was like, oh, these
You
guys are
so
good.
like they replaced it? You thought they replaced the board?
I thought that they had somehow, maybe I was tired, and they came with a vacuum cleaner and vacuumed out all the ash, and I don't, and wiped down the house, in the few hours that I was sleeping without me hearing. And I thought they'd put a new board there, and I thought they were playing with me. Or the thought crossed my mind that they didn't burn it, they burned something else, and that was my board. I thought it was a prank. So I'm like, wow, that's a really good prank, because when they called me the night before, I, I mean, I could feel the fear in their voice. I still remember that call. And so I put the board in my room and went to school, and I saw them in the hallway, and I was walking up to them, and I got I opened my mouth, and I wanted to tell them, wow, that was an amazing prank. That was incredible. And I got out. I said, wow, that was. And one of them turned around and saw me, and he's like, well, you stay away from us. We don't want anything to do with you. And so then, I mean, they couldn't have got away from me faster. And I think in their mind, they felt that after their experience, they felt that they were saving me and maybe saving the house from being possessed or whatever by burning the board. But I still didn't believe them, even after all that, 16,
And they never really talked to you about what happened.
The only thing is their call. When they called me at work, they told me everything, and it's in the book. Their experience, uh, uh,
Oh.
what they experienced, what he told me, is in the book, and it's terrifying, And so,
So did you believe him?
no, I didn't. I still didn't, and I turned around and there were, I had two friends. They were fraternal brothers. They lived two doors down, two houses down from me, and so they were standing there, and they're like, "What just happened?" And so I told them what had happened the night before, and the experience of what, because they saw how these guys just we don't want anything to do with you, and just took off. And so I told them,
They were y'all friends a long time, or
maybe
maybe
for about a year. I mean,
okay.
it was a small town. We knew everyone in town.
Okay,
It was that type of town. So, but
Hmm.
I had become closer with them probably in the year leading up to this experience.
Mhm.
So I told them, and one of them. So in the book, obviously I changed the names for privacy, but in the book, it's instead of two brothers, it's a brother and sister, and in the book it's Trent and Darcy, and so I'll refer to them just to keep it so it's not confusing, because Trent, who is normally it was on the football team, he laughed a lot, he was really quiet, which I didn't. Now I look back, I noticed that. But his sister, or well, her brother or sister, um, she's like, I want to play it, and I'm like, all right, well, let's play it on Sunday. This was Monday morning at school. I'm like, I'm off work on Sunday. Let's play it. So that Sunday, they came over to the house. It was around 5 o'clock that afternoon, and we put the board out. I was the scribe. I wrote down everything that the board was saying, while they were actually the ones that put the fingers on the planchette. But we were all asking questions. So as soon as we started playing, the the board started moving, and you ask the basic questions. Who are we talking to? He said his name was Peter. He said that he was 16 and that he died in a car accident, but he said it wasn't an accident, uh, which I thought, all right, well, that's, odd. That it led us to believe it was intentional.
Mhm.
Something happened. So uh, we, started asking questions, and basically by that point, Peter had enough. He'd said, basically, he didn't say enough, but he's like, you need to help my sister. And what's going on with your sister? And he said, her name is Chastity. She is bound and gagged, has been kidnapped, and she is being kept in this boarded up house. And the kidnapper is going to kill her and burn the house down. And I still didn't believe it. I I still didn't believe it. And I'm like, there's no boarded up houses in this town. I know every house in town, there's no boarded up house. It gave us an address, a physical address in town. And I'm like, well, I know that street. Let's go over there. I drove over there, and there was a boarded up house. Yeah.
So did
And
you call the police?
no. But I will get to that later, because we did involve the police, and that's another crazy.
What did these teenagers do? What did
So we decided, we got out of the car, and we like, well, let's, it's daylight, it's because it was probably about 5:30, maybe 6 o'clock around that time, because I think we started around 5. And uh, we called Chastity's name. We tried to peek through the boards. We tried to pull the boards off. And the house, just to kind of set the scene, the house was on a corner, and right across the street, it was right on the corner here, right across the street, there was a potato field, and the house was pretty dilapidated. I mean, the weeds had grown up. Part of the fence was lining over. There was a little awning that was coming over the back steps, and that was sagging. I mean, it was clear that no one had lived in that house for years or taken care of it. So, we were there for, I don't remember how long we were there, but we were calling her name, trying to pull the boards off and look through and just see if there's any sign that there is a kidnapped girl inside. And we're like, there's nothing. So we went back.
Yep. Peter told you she was gagged. She couldn't. You know what I'm saying? Y'all didn't listen to me.
I didn't. After all this time, I didn't even.
You didn't think of that? You're teenagers, you know.
Yeah. But even after he definitely said she was gagged. But I thought maybe if she, in my mind, I'm like, if she, in the movies, you're tied to a chair and you can at least move the chair and make some noise.
Some noise.
Okay. And or hum really loud or something. But we didn't hear anything. So we went back, and as soon as we sat down at the table, and my friends put their fingers back on the planchette, before we even asked a question, it started moving around and it went back and it said, "She's there. You need to go back now." Before we said anything. And I thought, oh, that's weird,
Did
but
go back?
we didn't immediately, but we kept asking questions, and he was not interested in answering any more of our questions.
Yeah, because his sister.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we ended up going back to the house, and by this point it was dusk, it started to get a little dark, and this whole process where we went to the house and back and went to the house and back lasted all night long. There was one point that we were at the house and we went over because every time we went over and came back, he seemed to get more agitated, more aggressive. I mean, it started out with the planchette just casually moving, and the more that we would go over and come back and we weren't helping him or listening, it started moving really aggressively fast. Wow. At one point, it almost went off the table. And so there was one time we were over at the house, and I was a Boy Scout growing up, so I'm like, I try to always be prepared for everything. So I said, okay, I'm gonna look for tracks, see if I can find in the grass or the footprints going in and out of the house. You listen for sounds, and you look for, it's dark, so you look for any light inside or anything. And so we all three of us had our own little jobs to do. And while we were there, I saw headlights, and the headlights were, the house was on the corner. This is, right here. This is where the field was. The car was coming down right here, and I happened to be right here at the time. And I thought, oh no. And it started slowing down. And I thought, oh, it's one of the neighbors that saw us out here, and they're like, oh, it's crazy kids vandalizing the house on a Sunday afternoon, and so let's go check it out. So I'm like, duck. So everyone ducked, and I happened to where I ducked, and there was right next to a dollhouse, and it was one of those, really big, like a Barbie house, but someone had painted above the door the initials CB. And I thought, all right, clearly that's the girl who owned the dollhouse. But so I was kind of hiding behind that, and one of my friends hid behind a pile of tires over here. Trent hid behind, there was part of the fence that had fallen over, and he was hiding behind the fence. But as the car came down, the closer it got to the house, it slowed down until it stopped right next to the yard. Not all the way to the stop sign, but right next to the yard. And I could see the silhouette of a man. and he was definitely looking. He was I- he was scouring that
This
yard.
is so intriguing.
Yeah, it's true. This is all true. And I remember the silhouette. He was a big guy, but I remember he was smoking because my dad smoked at the time, and I could in the dark I could see that ash move around,
Mhm.
and so I knew he was a smoker. And uh, I'm just looking at him. I'm like, all right,
Did he see your car?
no, because we parked down the street.
Smart. Okay,
Yeah,
smart.
I mean, because by this point we've been down and back, and at the time before, the reason we left the time before was, what the second time we were there is one of my friends said, "Well, all right, let me play devil's advocate. What if this is true, and what if the kidnapper killer is inside, and that's why we're not hearing anything, because he's making sure it's all quiet. And what if he follows us back and he kills us and our family?" We're like, "Oh, we didn't think about that." So we freaked out, and that's why we left the second time. So when we came back, Peter convinced us to come back again. And when I saw this car, we were hiding, and I didn't think it was a neighbor. I mean, I did initially, but he waited there, like I don't remember how long it was, but I remember I could see his head turn, like looking around, and eventually he left. So he went up to the stop sign and turned left and went the other way from where our car was. We were down here, and as soon as he got far enough away where I felt that we were safe, I'm like, "Let's get out of here." So we ran back to the car, and we went back to the board and like, this is a joke. And
But so CB didn't you didn't say chastity, that didn't register to you?
not at all,
Okay.
because I didn't know her last name. We didn't ask his last name. So, and I didn't think the C. I didn't make that.
You didn't hear anything in the dog.
No, no, yeah. So, because I didn't think that I thought that's just where if it was true, that's where she was being held. That's not where she lived. So it just didn't even register. But you're thinking, you picked that up. So we went back, and at this point, Peter was agitated, and um, the one of the things that was odd, and I didn't realize this until uh, much later, when I was writing it and I was kind of reliving this experience, is whenever I asked a question, or whenever in the book it's Darcy, whenever I myself or Darcy asked a question, uh, nothing happened. It would not move. There was no interaction, nothing. However, whenever Trent asked a question, it would move every time. So there were times when I would ask a question, even though I didn't have my fingers on the planchette, I would ask a question and nothing would happen. Trent would ask a question and get a response. Or Darcy would
Did Trent
ask
have his hands on the thing?
on the,
Oh,
it was
okay.
Trent and Darcy had their hands on the planchette, and Darcy would ask a question and nothing would happen. And she would rephrase the question and nothing would happen. Trent would ask the same question and get a response. So I thought, all right, that's
Interesting.
interesting.
That's
Yeah.
always a safe word.
Yeah, I was going to say weird, but interesting's better. Yeah.
Like that sometimes.
Yeah, that's different.
Some could make it go and some it would not.
Right.
Yeah.
It was enough to, like, Darcy realized that, and she looked at Trent and she's like, what, what's going on? Why? I'm sure she was thinking, like, why are you the only one that it's answering? And there's a reason for that. So
Interesting.
we're
I'm so intrigued.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it gets better. It gets better.
Okay.
So we're sitting there, and Peter's like, go back. You have to help my sister. And at this point, Trent had had enough. uh, he was like, "No, this is BS. This isn't real. This isn't true." Um, and
How can y'all say that if y'all actually gave your address and the house was boarded? Like,
for
well, go ahead.
16,
You're 16.
not believing anything. And that's the only answer I can say,
16,
which
right.
still doesn't make sense because it's clearly
Yeah.
it's all the writing is there that it's true.
Right.
So Trent had said, "No, this isn't true. This is fake," and then that's when things changed. So
What changed?
the board uh, actually said, "Trent, use his name. If you don't help my sister, you will die the same way I died." And we had already asked him how he had died. It was one of the first questions, and Peter said he died in a car accident. Well, when that threat came through the board, it it wasn't a game anymore. It wasn't fun. It wasn't interesting. It was it
Scary.
was terrified, and we
Yeah.
weren't. I can't. We were. I was. I remember. I was scared when that car came by because I did. Because before when the time before when we were there, my friend said, "What if it's the killer's here?" So that thought did cross my mind that if this is a killer, I mean, he's clearly scouring this. So that was the first time that I was really scared. Before that, I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. What's going to happen? This is, I didn't believe it. And when that threat came through, I mean, we sat there, and I, I don't remember which one of us was like, we need to go back. So by this point, it's starting to get light. It's Monday morning, and so we go back to the house, and we I don't remember how long we were there, but we're like, we need to figure this out, and we need to see if this is true or not. Because if it's true, and we don't save Chastity, Trent's gonna lose. Trent's gonna die. And if it's not true, we the only thing that I was thinking, and I can't speak for the others. The only thing that I was thinking was we need to find out if this is true or not.
Right.
And I had suggested going to the sheriff before, but they're like, no, that's not true. I'm like, all right, well, when we went back that last time, and after that threat, and we still couldn't find anything, we thought, all right, now it's time to go to the sheriff. But um, it was around 8 o'clock. I think it was just before, and we realized we're skipping school today anyway. So we decided, I'm like, well, before we go to the sheriff, let's see if we can corroborate, if we can verify Peter's story. So we went. There's the local newspaper there had a microfiche room, and so it tells me how old I am.
Right.
Microfiche. And so we went there, and we told them that we were on a school project, and and they let us in. So we went, and for 2 hours we searched every obituary looking for a guy named Peter who was 16 who died in a car accident, and could not find anything, nothing.
Mm.
And at that point, Darcy and I were like, whew, whew, it's fake. It's not true. We've just debunked this situation, and we were relieved. And Trent, who was again always the one laughing and things, he was really quiet and just introspective. And then he said, almost to himself, he said, "We didn't ask him if he died here." And I thought, you're right, because if he didn't die in that little town, it wouldn't be in that paper.
Right.
So, and we didn't ask him. And rather than go back and ask him, I thought, at this point, it become real again. Uh, let's go to the sheriff. So we went to the sheriff, and the sheriff lived about less than a block and a half from my parents. He knew my parents well, and we walked in, and uh, the sheriff, he put his cigarette down, and he's like, well, he knew me because of my parents, and he's like, Scott, what are you doing here, and why are you skipping school? And I said, well, we've got something we have to talk to you about, and I don't know how to tell you. And so we explained to him that we believe that there is a kidnapped girl, and she is in danger of being killed. And we told him exactly where it was, the house was, and even to this day, I can remember he was not surprised. He was not alarmed at all. And it's not like, when I say not surprised, it's not like at first we thought he just doesn't believe us. But I think it was more. I think, but
So do you think he didn't believe you guys, or he was in shock, or he already knew?
so I, let me say this, and this will answer your question. So he asked us, he said, how do you know that there's a girl in a boarded up house? And we said, well, her brother told us. And he said, where's her brother? And we're like, gosh, how do you tell a cop that you'd be talking to a ghost, and the ghost said that?
Right.
So we're trying to like think of like, how do you phrase this where he's going to believe us, because this is serious. I mean, my friend's life is on the line, and we said, well, her brother told us, and he said, where's her brother? And we're like, he's dead. And he's like, excuse me?
Right.
And we're like, yes, his name is Peter. As soon as we said the name Peter, he changed.
Real
He became
concerned. Scared.
he became concerned. He was no longer interested in entertaining this conversation and wanted us out. And he said, either you can go to school now, or I'm going to take you in my cruiser, and then I'm going to call your dad, and I know your dad's going to beat your butt if I have to take you, because you're skipping school and if I have to take you. And he's absolutely right. He knew my dad. So we left, and we forgot about it. 10 years after we graduated, I was back home visiting my family, and my mom was one of those mothers that she kept every Mother's Day card that I wrote for her from first and second grade, every story that I wrote. Which on a side note, those stories that I wrote in second, third, and fourth grade are actually on my website, and they are hilarious. Like, if you didn't know that an 8-year-old Mormon boy wrote that, you would be convinced that someone on acid wrote it. I mean, they're hilarious stories. So if you get a chance, check it out. It's scottwellsauthor.com, and the stories are hilarious. But so my mom had saved all of these, and I was just going through this drawer that was in my old room, and I got to the bottom of it, and there I saw sticking out under the bottom of the drawer, there was this stack of papers, and I'm like, what's that? And it was like someone had pulled the drawer out, put the stack of papers in there, and put the drawer back in to hide it. But over the years, it had kind of worked its way out. So I pulled the drawer out, and I pulled these papers out, and it was my notes from that night. Because I was a scribe and I wrote down everything, and I wrote them on a stack of, it was about that, well, maybe about that big, but it was the size of like Post-it notes, and I'd staple them together. So I read everything, I wrote down every letter that the board spelled out, or the words that the board spelled out, and uh, it gave me chills. I mean, it brought me back to that experience, and I hadn't heard anything about any resolution about the house or anything, and so
Because after you graduated, so and you lost contact with Darcy and Trent, right? They went there to live their lives.
Yeah.
Everybody living their lives now. And
Yeah.
so,
You know, and I mean, the day after I graduated, like I mentioned, I graduated high school. I moved to California, and I'm like, I am out of this place, you know. And so when I was reading these notes, I got to the end, and I had heard that Darcy and Trent were back in town visiting their parents. So I'm going to go over and see him. You know, I want to see him. I haven't seen him in 10 years. And I went over, and Darcy answered the phone or answered the door. And I sat and talked to her for, you know, a few minutes. And I said, well, where's Trent? I want to, and I'd love to see him while I'm in town. And uh, she said, you didn't hear. I said, hear what? And she said, Trent died. And I had just read these notes an hour before, less than an hour before. And I said, how did he die? And she said, he died in a car accident. And I'm sitting there, and I, I looking at her. I talk a lot, and it's, as you know, as you can see, it's hard to shut me up. That shut me up.
yeah, what were you thinking?
I was thinking about what I had just read, and what the board, you know, that had threatened him, that said if he doesn't help chastity, then he's going to die the same way. And I said, uh, when did he die? And you know, she put her, you know, closed her eyes and put her head back, and she's like, it's a day I will never ever forget. And she told me the date, and I, I must have been uh, all the color. If it didn't, it felt like it did. All the color rushed out of my body, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. And she told me the date. It was exactly 2 years to the date that threat came through. Because when I took those notes, I put the date on it and everything. And I looked at her, and I said, Darcy, do you remember that night that we played with the? And she looked at me, and she grabbed my arm, and she said, and you know what? That house burned down too. Yeah. So
Really?
that is all true. You know, in the book, it actually goes more into detail about the experiences and how we felt, and a lot
Oh
of the
my
crazy
God.
things that
I
happened.
hope that little girl wasn't in there. That's pretty scary.
So
That's crazy.
the question that I always get is what happened? You know, did I ever find out what happened? Did when the house burned, did they find a body? My dad, you know, because it was a small town, they didn't have a full time uh, fire department. So my dad was a volunteer fireman for 36 years, and he went over there. They never found a body. There was nobody there. However, and this is one of the probably 1.5% of the book that uh, I I I can't prove, but I believe. Uh, I believe the sheriff had something to do with it. And the reason I believe that is because uh, of his reaction when we told him about Chastity and the girl being kidnapped, and then how he changed. I mean, it was abruptly how he changed when we said Peter's name. And then I also realized that he was the first one on the scene when that house burned down. And so and he was very respected. I mean, he'd been elected, you know, uh, he's the only sheriff that I knew, you know.
Mhm.
So
That guy you saw was a smoker. And so,
exactly. And when I walked in,
but you had a lot of smokers in that town.
there, well, but
What about his
it's a
shape?
Mormon town, you know, pretty predominantly a Mormon town. But yeah, there were, you know,
Yeah.
there were some smokers, but
Did he have the shape of a sheriff?
he did. He had the shape of the silhouette.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's scary.
So I can't prove it, but I suspect that, and I put it in the book. And there's in the book, it actually um, it explains the connection to his last name is Brown, Sheriff Brown, to Peter and to Chastity Brown, which I remembered the initials on the dollhouse, CB, Chastity Brown. So I thought, wow, they lived in this house, and that was her dollhouse. And Peter must have been the one that put the initials, painted the initials above the door. I mean, it all seemed to make sense. So again, I can't prove it. I'm not accusing anyone of doing it, but
That is a crazy story.
I do believe that the sheriff had something to do with it. So the other part of the story is what happened after. So after
Just more?
well, it's what happened. So for years.
Well, I gotta reset because Danya always tell me to reset. But this is so intriguing. So for those who are just joining us or just tuning in and trying to figure out what we're talking about, we are talking about this book here, Ouija, marked by the Ouija, by Scott Wells. And we're so excited to have Scott Wells with us this evening, talking about his book, which is perfect for the season.
Absolutely. If you like spine tingling and chills and twisted stories,
oh my
this is your
God,
book.
this is it. I mean, he has quite a story, and crazy as it is based on fact
It's
or true.
true. It
Yeah,
absolutely
it's a
happened.
true story. Of course, names change, so it's fiction, but very intriguing. And so, part one, I was just so caught up in what you were saying that I forgot to reset. So, but there's more to this story.
There is, and it's kind of a separate story that is caused that was
Like a part two?
well it's not paranormal. So when I found out that Trent had died, just how Peter,
You're gonna make me want to figure out, does that sheriff have two kids?
I
You know,
I've looked into it. So
you did?
I have.
How about you find out?
And there's that's part of what's in the book. That's why I feel that there's a definite connection.
Wow.
Yes. So after I found out,
Sci-fi, mystery, and horror.
yeah, yes, yeah, and after I found out about what happened to that Trent died, I spent years
That
just
messed you up, didn't it?
it did. It did in a lot of ways. I felt so guilty that it was my board, and it was my friend that lost his life, and I didn't understand why, and because and there was no way that we could have solved that mystery of what happened to Chastity. We're not the Hardy Boys. We're not Inspector Clouseau. We didn't. We're 16, thinking we knew everything, but we didn't. There was
No,
no
anything.
Yeah. So it messed me up for years, and I started making bad decisions, and I was
What about
homeless.
Darcy? Did it mess her up too? Or she
Um,
handled it a bit better?
I have not talked to Darcy in several years, but that is because Darcy passed away too. Yeah, that's not the
Really?
book, but yeah, she passed away just a couple of years ago. I wish she was still, or the other brother was still around, because I wanted to um, talk to, especially when I started writing the book. And that's the other thing. When I started, after it was over, I made all these, bad decisions. I was homeless for a while, and I, I just got to the point like, this is not who I am. This is not the life I want. And I, I need to figure out a way to get over this and change the trajectory of my life, because I don't want my future. I wanted to leave the past in the past. I wanted my future to be happy, healthy people, basically. So it took me a while, and I eventually was able to buy my first house, and I started my business, and things were going well. And then, but the story was still in the back of my head. 'Cause it was still like I still didn't really understand. So when I started writing the story, the reason I started writing it was a couple of different reasons. One, I love horror. I love getting scared.
Obviously.
Yeah, like the movies, The Exorcist, all of those. Omen, they didn't scare me.
No, for real.
No, not at all. And
Damien didn't scare you?
no, but
You heard that song that didn't scare you?
No.
That music?
I can tell you one thing. The movie that scared me the most was
Poltergeist.
no, not at all.
Oh, God.
It is the craziest movie, and I don't remember the title, but and I don't even believe in Bigfoot. But it was a movie about
Bigfoot?
this boyfriend and girlfriend that went into he was taking her in on this camping trip, and he was going to propose to her. And at one scene it was a 7-minute scene. They were in their tent at night, and something bumped into their tent, and they heard other things outside, and I think or they heard like something big crashing around. It's a movie, yeah.
Right.
So I've been in that situation because I grew up camping, hiking, backpacking, and everything. And I've been in a situation where,
Can't do the camp thing.
yeah, there's times when I lived in California, I used to go camping all the time in Sequoia National Forest, and I would go up by myself for 5 days. And there was a specific campground or campsite that I like to go to that the rangers refer to it as Bear Alley, because every time they go there, they have to chase the bears out of that. And I
And
didn't
you
know
went?
I didn't know that. But I'm like, I've set up my tent, so I'm not moving it. The first time I was there, 3 bears came through my night, or through the tent, or through not the tent, through my campsite. Um, but
No way.
yeah, so that's why this scene freaked me out so much. It was because I've been in my tent when something big has bumped it, and you don't know what it's there, and you're too afraid to look outside. And that's kind of what I was mentioning earlier. It's the true stories that are really, I believe, are really the scariest because they really happen. So even though I don't believe in I don't believe in Bigfoot, uh, that situation that boyfriend and girlfriend was in, it took me 21 minutes to go through that 7 minute scene, because I could picture myself in that situation.
Wow.
But yeah, so none of the other poltergeists, none of those scared me. Friday the 13th, nothing. So the first reason I wanted to write the book is because I wanted to scare people. And then as I started writing it, I realized it's not about a ghost story. It is a ghost story, but that's not what I want it to be about. I want it to be about the people that have had experiences like mine, that are living in silence, living they feel invisible because these are traumatic experiences that, like me, it was so traumatic for me. I made all these bad decisions for years, and it caused I can't say it caused me to go homeless, but I ended up homeless because I was making bad decisions. And so I could see
Yeah.
how it affected me in my personal life. And the more I talk to people that have had similar experiences, they were living in some cases a lot longer than I was, with these experiences. And they didn't have anyone that they could share it with. And it's like therapy, when you've got
Oh, yeah. You gotta talk it out. You
absolutely.
gotta talk, yeah.
So imagine having these traumatic experiences, but not having anyone to talk to. And so you're constantly mulling it over in your head and trying to figure out yourself. And it just overtakes you, and it affects so many aspects of your life. So that's when I realized that. I'm like, I want to open this conversation and to get more people talking about it. So these people that have these experiences, that have been living with these hauntings, can talk about it and move past it and leave their experiences behind them.
So have you come across a lot of people who have had this type of experience?
Thousands,
Interesting.
thousands. I've had there is I did a show in June. The show I was talking about earlier with I did the booth and everything, and there was a guy that stopped by, him and his wife, and he told me a story. He said he was 55.
You need to be writing some of these stories down. You could start a whole type of
Series.
series and books. I mean, you this is some crazy stuff.
Funny you say that
I mean,
because there have been there's
I bet you heard some crazy stuff then, huh?
I have
Oh my gosh.
I'll share two of them with you. But there's so since this book come out, I it spawned two other projects. One project is it's a short film that I wrote called Marked. And matter of fact, tomorrow the GoFundMe campaign goes live because we're trying to raise money to make it. And my purpose in
Now
doing
go
that,
support Mark, okay? Because this is some interesting stuff.
it'll be live on GoFundMe tomorrow. It's called Marked, and my purpose in doing that is, again, that is just another avenue to get people talking about it, because the more you talk, like what you had said earlier, exactly what you said, the more you talk about it, the less you're afraid of it. You still have to respect the power, you still have to understand it, and stay away from it, but you
Especially if you don't do what it says.
right. So but the other project is
I would have
exactly
I'm sorry, I would have finished that project. Well, we gonna find that.
the, the other project is exactly what you said. We've been interviewing people for about 6 months who have had their own personal experiences that are interested in talking about it and sharing it on camera.
Really?
And we are it's either going to be a documentary or a TV series, and we have the first season done. It's in editing now.
Oh,
And
I can see that on Netflix.
there's 7 networks that are interested, and that's one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So we're
Okay, remember little people when you make it big stuff. Okay?
we'll
Remember
come back.
little people,
We'll
okay?
come back and do another one. So yeah, that's this the second project that has spawned from it, which is great because it's
What?
now it's about getting it out in the open. Now when it comes,
What are some stories you heard? Just tell me one.
so
And then we're gonna wrap it up. I know we've been talking a long time, but this is so interesting to me. I mean, again, I don't mess with this stuff, but
I
but
wouldn't recommend it.
but I'm intrigued by it. I've always been intrigued by this type of stuff. I'm too scary, so I'm not gonna do it. But the fact that you did it and you have your experience, I can learn from you. But yeah,
And that's what I want. I want people to learn from my experience. I don't want people to have the same. I don't want people to have a negative experience, because if the people that are out there that are going to use it, they're going to use it whether someone tells them no or not. Everyone has the right to make up their own mind.
you're right.
However, my point is, if they do decide to use it, there are certain there's a protocol. There are certain rules that you should
Everything
always
has a
follow.
protocol.
Absolutely. And
There really is.
there's still no 100% guarantee that if you use it, you're not going to have a negative experience. But by using these rules, it
So a lot of people are messing with their Ouija board.
so there's a lot of reasons that people try it. Overwhelmingly, it's generally
Curiosity.
kids. Yeah. But when it gets to, believe it or not, there are a lot of middle-aged, and maybe not seniors, but 20s, 30s, and 40s that use it to connect with a loved one. But one
Oh.
of the because it's the most people don't really understand. Most people don't understand tarot cards. They don't understand pendulums. I can't say I do. I've never used it. But a Ouija board, it's marketed as a game. I mean, Hasbro is selling it. You can find it at Target, Walmart, Amazon, and the age limit is 8 years and up. Which when people see that, they're like, oh, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's a game. But I want to educate people, and thank you for saying that about education. I want to educate people that yes, this is powerful. This is real. The other side wants to
Maybe it
connect.
should be 21 and up.
I totally,
I'm stuck on an 8-year-old. Maybe it need to be 21 and up.
I totally agree. I can't imagine, and I'm sure there are, because that's why Hasbro has it, that there are parents out there that, maybe they're single mothers, single fathers are here, go play with the game, with their kids. And it's not a game. And so I want to take away that perception that it is a game, and I want people to learn from my experience. And so we put out this, it's a little brochure. It's called the Ouija board safety guide. And it actually lists the 13 rules that, if you do choose to take the risk to do it, it lists out everything that you should follow. And and I've been handing those out at shows and things. And actually, on my social media, if you go to my Substack, I mean, you can get a free subscription and a paid subscription. For the paid subscription, you can actually download that Ouija safety guide for free. But there are from my experience, and I've talked to thousands of people that all over the world that have shared their stories with me, whether in person or via social media. And I'm not kidding when I say this. There are people, which surprise me, that have never had a bad experience when using board. And then there's the rest of us, which that percentage is very, very small. But what I found,
They have a negative is the small. But they have a positive.
the ones that have had I don't like to say a positive experience. I just like to say a not negative experience, because there is a difference. But 100%, everyone that I've talked to, there's not one person, everyone that has had a not negative experience has followed those rules.
Oh, okay.
But on the flip side, literally everyone, including myself, that has had a negative experience has not followed those rules. So when I realized that, I'm like, all right, if I want to make sure that do what I can, I'm just one person, but if I want to help people not have a negative experience, then I want to get those rules out there. I want to educate people, because even the game, when you can buy the game, it doesn't have rules in there. And it certainly doesn't have these rules.
Right.
And some of those rules are, you should never play alone. You should always.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the big ones. And there's still people that play. There's a girl that we talked to.
Can you imagine doing that alone? No witnesses? Oh no.
We've for the TV project, we've talked to people who have done it alone, and they knew not to do it, and they did it anyway. This one girl did it multiple times, and it wasn't for very long each time, but she's probably in her mid to late 20s. She has been dealing with this for over 10 years, and she is trying to find a way to stop what happened. And I believe it's a direct result of her playing alone. She didn't follow the rules. She knew what she was doing. Another rule is you should always close out the session. Always say goodbye. The session is over. Any spirits that's here, you're gone. Goodbye. Close that out. That's probably the biggest one that people don't know about, but it's huge. Another rule is never utilize the
Session
board.
over. Goodbye.
Another rule is never use the board when you're vulnerable. Not when you're sad, not when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're sick, because the more weak you are, the more power whoever you are dealing with gets. And you can ask, a lot of people will say, look, I want to talk to my grandmother. And the entity that you're talking to may say, oh, this is your grandmother. But it
may not be.
Most of the times it's not. So there's certain things like, if, again, I do not recommend using the board. I do not advocate for it. It's not worth the risk, trust me. But if you do, this safety guide will help. But there are if you are reaching out to talk to a loved one and you think you're talking to that person, your first instinct should be caution and like, how do I know? So there's no surefire way, but you can ask specific questions that only you and that person knows. If they answer it correctly, or if then there's a better chance that it might be that person. But it's you still never, you never know. So uh, so with all of that, so some of the stories. So there is a girl that shared a story with us that we'd like for her to share it on camera so we can include it in this TV project. But it's extremely important to us because these stories are so traumatic to people, and
I can imagine.
it's nuts. So we told her, when you're ready, um, talk about will help, but when you're ready, we'd love to. She told us part of the story. We want to hear the whole story. What she told us was it was a typical teenage slumber party. I want to say that they were 13. There were three of them, staying up all night, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're like, what do we do? Let's play with the Ouija board. It's stereotypical,
Yep.
And so they pulled it out, the three of them. They had just started playing, they had some activity, and one of the girls took her fingers off the planchette, which is another one of the rules. You never do that. One of the girls took her fingers off the planchette and got up and just walked out of the room. And the other two girls, one of the girls that stayed was the one that we were talking to. The other two girls thought, oh, she's just going to the bathroom. And so they waited and waited. She never came back. It's been 21 years and she has not been seen or heard from since. True story.
Oh my God.
There's another, the guy that I mentioned I met at the show. He said he was 55. He said when he was 4 or 5, his uncle played with the Ouija board in their house. And he said, I didn't play it, but it was in the house. And he said it was 4 or 5. He said he was 55. So it's been 50 years ago. He said something attached to him that he's been living with for 50 years, even though he didn't play with it. And I said, well,
Interesting.
I try to debunk it, because there's a lot of, the mind is so powerful. It is, you could see, this bottle of water, and then, the bottle of water just will randomly pop in your head later on. So yeah, the mind is fascinating. So I thought, well, maybe he's heard the story from somewhere else or whatever. And I said, how do you know that that something attached to you? And he said, well, after he got married, his wife would wake him up, and he tell him that he was having these night terrors. And the guy that I was talking to, his voice is the only way that I can describe it, that people will understand, is it was like just a creamy cup of coffee, or just a smooth cup of hot chocolate. It was just smooth. And he had said that in these night terrors, he was speaking a language that neither he or his wife had ever heard before. And the voice that he was speaking it in was very gruff. It was, and the way he didn't say this, but when the way he said it, I immediately pictured like a werewolf, like if a werewolf could talk. It's just that's the first thing that popped in my head when he said that. And I said, all right, it's in your sleep. Your wife's telling this. How do you know? And he said, she recorded it and played it for me.
Interesting.
And he was going to go home and get it because he didn't want it on his phone. He was going to go home and get it, bring it back, and he never made it back before the end of the show. But I started telling him, I said, so what are you doing about this? Because this is this is something that has affected your life for 50 years. It's it's affected your marriage. You know, his wife showed up at the, you know, she was there with him, and he stopped at my booth, and she immediately said, I don't want to talk to you. I am Catholic. I don't want anything to do with this. And she was very adamant. And I was thinking, you're at a horror convention. You know, what, you know, but he said, honey, why don't you keep walking? And I watched him watch her walk. I don't know how far down she got, but he waited till she was far enough away, and then he turned around and told me the story. And it's, when he said that his intent is to just ignore it, he said, I've been ignoring it for 50 years. I said, you know, I said it's clearly affecting your marriage, your relationship with your wife. It's going to affect your relationship with your kids and your grandkids. It may even affect your if whatever it is, if you don't take care of it and clear it and cleanse it from the very you know, now, I mean, it's been 50 years, it could move to something else. I mean, it could affect so many other people in your life, and you don't want that. And he said, yeah, I just want to ignore it. And I said, you know what? I'm not an expert on Ouija boards. I'm not an expert on the paranormal. I'm just a guy that wrote a a book about my own personal experience. But in that process, I have met so many amazing and interesting people. And I told him, I said, I can introduce you, make the introduction to people that can help. And he's like, don't want it. I want to ignore it. And that kind of brought it back to me as well, because he was very, I felt he was very courageous in sharing that story with me, uh, because clearly his wife doesn't want to hear it. She knows what's going on. No,
They don't want to
no
deal
one,
with it.
yeah, no one else. Yeah, he doesn't even want to deal with it. He doesn't want to hear the story coming out of his mouth because he doesn't want to remember it. And so that was another reason that just kind of strengthened my resolve for this. You know, I'm like, you know, with these death threats and everything, I'm like, you know what? If no one else is going to stand up for these people who have had these experiences, and if no one is going to stand up and say, you know, hey, this is not a game, it's powerful, learn from my mistake, then I'm just one person, but I will do that. You know, I hope nothing happens to me, you know, of course, but I found so much courage with these people who have had these traumatic experiences, and if I can, if I can help them create, if I can create a space, a safe space for them to talk about it and deal with it and get over it and leave that in the past, then that is, that will make everything worthwhile. And that's,
And you're doing that.
well, thank you.
You're doing that.
And people like yourself that, you know, and for the Doc Bookshop, that opens up a platform to be able to openly talk about it and sharing it with people. You know, hauntings are hauntings because it scares people. And it's not, hauntings are not always about ghosts, the ghosts in the room. It's, I believe, the worst part about a haunting is what happens afterward. It's the silence. It's the fact that whoever has had that experience has to live with it, and they can't share it with somebody, and so they have to deal with that, the consequences for that. So, you know, that's why, you know, that's why I'm glad that, you know, with the podcast and people like yourself that are uh, providing an opportunity for us to share education, for educating people on, you know,
Yes. Now, yeah, we believe in education.
yeah.
So if you're going to deal with the Ouija board, first read this book and definitely get in contact with Scott. Give me your website again.
So the website is scottwellsauthor.com.
Yeah.
And
And he has rules for engagement if you decide to go that way.
and to get a copy of that, you can go to my Substack, which is Official Twisted Tales. You can register and sign up, subscribe as a free subscriber, or as a paid subscriber. The, you know, the difference is the free subscribers, they get everything, but like I've just started that the Substack. But
Mhm.
I was back in that town in April. And while I was there, I went and did a video of me standing in front of where that house was. I'm like, this is where the Ouija house was. Obviously, the house burned down. There's another house there. And then I went to the other house where,
There's another house there?
yeah, someone else another house that had been built up. It's same corner and everything, but I mean, everything's changed. Across the field was an old,
Potato
a
thing.
potato field. Now it's the regional medical center. It's the
Oh,
county
okay.
medical. So it's like this happened when I was 16, and
Right. There's a lot of changes, so it's okay.
yeah, but
I
so
probably wouldn't live in a house, but it's okay.
no, me either. I mean, especially if I knew the history.
Right.
But there's also for the GoFundMe. Again, that the film short film Marked, that helps to get to educate and get the word out, get people talking about the TV series. The TV project is again, if anyone out there has experiences they'd like to share, or you feel that you can't talk about it with anyone, please reach out to me through my website or through social media. I will always be a safe space for you to talk about it, because I do believe the more you talk about it, then the more you can deal with it and the less it has power over you.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Scott.
Oh, thank
This was
you.
a great conversation. Very interesting. Very intriguing. This is I guess we have categorized this book as a horror, sci-fi, and mystery.
Yep.
All in one.
True crime.
True crime.
It's actually
all that.
nominated for the 2025 Claymore Award in the True Crime division. I just found out yesterday that it actually won award in the horror category
Wow.
for a book company.
Well, we look
So-
forward to seeing more of your work. I know you got some stuff in the workings. So this is just the beginning of your journey.
It is the beginning. I love writing. I love sharing stories, but I really love helping people don't make the same mistake I make.
Right. Right.
In everything.
All right. Well, Diane's coming, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, thank you all for joining us here at the Doc Bookshop. We've been in conversation with Scott Wells on his book, Marked by the Ouija. It's been a very interesting conversation. Okay, very interesting story. I'm like, what? You got a lot.
So
he has a lot going on in his head. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, Scott. We could probably talk for days because
Yeah.
you got a lot.
You've
seen a lot. So Scott.
The other thing I just want to mention, and this is also in the book, is so the book is called Marked by the Ouija, and Trent was marked, and there was a reason that he was marked. There was a reason that the board only responded to him. There was a reason that he got the threat, that he was threatened, and I don't want to spoil it, but that's in the book. There's a definite reason. So I named the book Marked by the Ouija because he was marked by the Ouija. But it was, and when I learned that, when I understood that, that helped me get over my grief. I'm like, it's not my fault. It is, that helped me process that and move past it. And, at that point, that's when I was writing the book, but that's when I really wanted to share it because, another one of the rules is do not disrespect the board. And that's what a lot of people do. And disrespect can be asking frivolous questions like, hey, what are the lottery numbers? Or things like that. That is considered disrespect. And I don't want to give it away, but there's a reason why Trent was marked by the Ouija. So the book is titled for that.
Interesting. Okay, this has been such a all right. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, in studio audience.
Thank you.
And thank you all in the virtual world. Again, stop by the Doc Bookshop. Get your copy of Marked by a Ouija. Definitely go to his website. Check out all the works that he has going on. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it.
I enjoy